Okay, the important thing is to make the books look attractive. So we would say the first principle is less is more. You don't want a lot of books, you want to make the books look good, and you want to make them really easy to pick up. So pick books with good front covers. You know, when you have all the books in a long, long row, you can't see any of them and they don't look very interesting on the spine, on the shelf. So it's really important to turn them cover out so that you can actually see what the book looks like. If you want to know a little bit more about this, there's some really interesting things that come from retail research. And the most famous guy in the world for retail research is called Paco Underhill, and he's an American, and he runs a huge company called Envirocell.com. You might want to go on his website. And he started off the first pioneering retail research where he trained people up to follow people when they shopped. And he looked at where did their eyes go, where did their feet go, where did their hands go. And we have taught hundreds and hundreds of people in libraries to do the same thing. And you can find out an awful lot about how people behave in a space by watching and observing. It's a really good technique. You have to take it seriously. You have to think about it. It's not just sort of, oh, I'll just jot something down. Plan what it is you're looking for, and then have a fixed period of time that you've got that you're going to do it, and count very, very precisely. In the big companies now, Paco Underhill's company, they've got much more high-tech solutions, and they put glasses on everybody as they get next to the supermarket, and they can then track where their eyes go. We haven't got the money to do that, so we still do it the old-fashioned way, just watching. But some of the key things you'll pick up from that are, here's just a couple, okay? Eye level is buy level. So people will take a product that is at the height of their eyes and their chest. They don't bend down that much, they don't reach up that much. Now in a school, you may well have kids of different heights, so that eye level will be different for different age groups, but that's really important. Treat the ones below or above as more like storage and concentrate on getting the eye level ones just right. And one more that actually is relevant to books as well. This is another statistic from Paco Underhill. 50% of people in American stores go on to buy the first thing that they touch. So they're walking through the store, looking, wondering whether they're going to, go any further. When they reach out and touch something, half of them then go on to get the money out of their purse and to go and buy it. That's a really high proportion. So you have to make anything you want people to pick up very touchable. Think about how they do it. You'll have a stack of jeans, you'll have a stack of sweaters, you'll have, they pile them up so that they're nice and easy to touch. That's quite hard with books, because when you pile particularly library books up, they look like a yard sale. They won't look that great. But think about how you make them touchable. There are a lot of furniture units for books on the market which are really just storage, and they don't encourage you to look or to touch at all. Those are the first two steps in designing a space that you want people to read in. Get the books where you can see them, and get the books where you can touch them. And it's more important to have that than it is to have hundreds of books. Okay, there's lots of ways you can go with themes, but I would look at what's the purpose of the theme. And many people get more obsessed with the theme than they are with encouraging people to read, because the theme is easy. So think about, with any space, you start by who's going to use it, what are they going to use it for, what are their needs? Okay, so you start with the people and you look at what they're going to do in the space and how they're physically going to be in the space. Okay, so if they're going to be calm and reflective and contemplative, then you want a theme that's like that. If they're going to be buzzy, lots of chat, lots of creativity, talking to each other, then you want a theme like that. A theme is not just decorative. You should think about a theme in relation to the purpose and the audience of your space. And I would say, for instance, lots of illustrations of books, trying to do a book theme, it's very hard. Books in clip art are diabolical. They're all ugly, they're all awful, they all look old-fashioned. You're much better to use photocopies, colour photocopies if you can, of book covers. Book covers are brilliantly designed. The person who designed the book has spent more money on that front cover than you're going to have for a whole classroom sometimes. And they've spent it to reach out to the target audience. And all you need to do is to use that. So I would be really careful of themes overcoming the books. What you want to do is to pick the book covers and make them work. Okay, you have to exploit the space you've got. We always say to people, we work in a lot of different styles of buildings. Go with your building, not against it. Don't fight the architecture, don't fight the space. So if you've got lots of nooks, don't pretend it's all open, it won't work. You've got to exploit the nooks. So I would make little discovery points in each nook. You could even theme each nook differently if you put different kinds of books in each nook. The height thing I was talking about, if you, for instance, put in like soft seating on the floor with some cushions, you can then reduce everything I said about eye level and height much lower down because you're going to be at that level to see it. So I would look to make the nooks something that's, you know, nice to be in. Can you make them cozy? Can you make them attractive? Is it different when you sit in it from when you see it from the outside? How many people can sit in at once? And what do you want them to do in there? You know, these are the things that I would look at. So look at your space and take the negatives of it and try and turn them into positives. Okay, if we had a flat wall, we couldn't make these nice little corners that people actually like to be in. We couldn't separate off this view of these 5 books from these 5 books in the next bit. They'd all run into each other and it would be a muddle. So exploit that as much as you can. You know, whatever your space is, work with it and not against it. That's another really good design rule. I would look at, again, what you're trying to do is to motivate people to get something out of reading, okay? So the first thing is to use the books you've got, whatever you've got, pick the best ones, you save a lot of money that way. The next thing, I was going to talk about this a bit further on, but you can talk about it in relation to money as well, is to look at what is the bridge between the person and the book. What is it that motivates you? What would persuade you? And a lot of professional book marketing is all done around the author. That's what they do. They have a picture of the author, they promote the known authors, and if you're not very interested in that, it doesn't reach you at all. So we look much more at what's the experience that the book is offering you. What will you get out of reading that book? Why should you bother to even give it a go? And there's lots of bridges that you can make there. For instance, by using what people say about why would so-and-so like this book? Why would so-and-so like this book? So there's lots of things you can do like that. If you're going to make some kind of decoration on the walls, I would make it with a picture of all the kids in the class and they each choose a book. They don't even have to have read the book. Just which one would you choose? If, you know, why that one? It's a really good discussion. And I hope you've got a bit of a range of choice, so they're not all the same kind of book. Because the key to actually motivating somebody to read is to find something that speaks to them, speaks to their life, and what they happen to be interested in at the moment. And people are interested in very, very different things. And people who hate reading, for instance, fiction and can't be doing with stories about girls and their feelings, you know, may well like a very different kind of book with a lot of facts in it about, a lot of boys prefer facts, for instance. But people can get into quite technical things that are scientific or about car engines or flying or, you know, biggest, longest, deepest fact books, things like that. Find books like that too, or fantasy, fan fiction, stuff that's in ebook. All the fan fiction stuff is really booming at the moment. Look at how you can get something like that reading experience. What did you get out of that book? Why should somebody else read it? That's a connector that you can make, and then not just having the book cover, you have a little quotation next to it. And that kind of thing, people get curious about that. Not famous quotations, quotations from real people in your class, in your school. That doesn't cost a penny. I shouldn't say a penny, I should say a cent for you. A penny is UK. Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, yeah. Again, it's what kind of area. Is it a restful, calm area? Is it a secret area where you get privacy? Is it a social area where you're going to be able to strike up a conversation with a friend? You know, there's different kinds of spaces. Whenever we do a space that's more the size of a classroom or a couple of classrooms, we would try and zone it so we've got those different areas, and then people have a choice. Okay, which is great. If you haven't got as much space as that, then that's worth looking at. But we would always try and give a choice of heights. For instance, some people like to stand up, some people like to sit down, some people like to lounge on the floor. Can you give that variety so that people can choose where they want to be? Can there be bits where you do it by yourself and bits where you are working with other people? That, again, if you can give that choice, it's really, really good. But then I think you can do a lot with colour. In terms of making a boring space look a little bit more interesting. And again, not too much, you know. Something with texture or softness with fabrics. If you can't, you know, if you've got, you mentioned, I think you've got a very cold floor, get a rug. Just buy a cheap rug from anywhere. It doesn't have to be a fancy rug with books on it. And you probably, you know, the books ones are all horrible. They look like they're for kindergarten. Just get a decent colour rug and, you know, use that. That'll soften it, makes it nicer to be in. But I would say a lot of it is about standing, looking at it from the outside. Do you want to go in? That's a very, very important view. Are you tempted to go into it? But then when you're in it, is it nice to be in? What is it that makes it feel comfortable? And, you know, don't try and invent it all from the outside. Keep going in and concentrating on the experience, discussing the experience with each other. Does that make it nicer if we put that to the left or the right? Try it out, experiment, okay? And what you will find is that what one person likes, another doesn't. So you can't get it right for everybody, and you're going to have to make some choices if you've only got a small space. So you might want to discuss that, you know. I think the toughest design question I've asked on any design project I've been involved in, and it's one that a lot of people find difficult to answer, and many don't even consider it, okay? But I always ask, who gets the best space and why? That's a really good question. And people don't like to answer it. In libraries that I work with a lot, they try and pretend everybody gets the same space, and there's obviously no difference. There's always a space that's better. Think in your own house, back at home. Who gets the best space at the table? Who gets the best space in front of the TV? And in most families, there will be a hierarchy of who sits where, okay? And, you know, sometimes the dad gets the best seat, sometimes the mum gets the best seat, sometimes, you know, it's a really interesting conversation to have, but it's just the same with any other space. Who gets it, okay? You can have a debate to identify what's the best spot and then decide what should be in the best spot. You know, what do you most want that best spot to be? What's the thing you most want to achieve? Who are the people you most want to feel comfortable in it? And everything about what you do in design flows from that. But it's a tough question, okay? And it's long before you get to think about what colours are or what furnishings are or anything like that. Don't start with that. Start with, who do you want to feel comfortable in this space, okay? You know, so you can make a space that is very gender-based. It could look very girly or very masculine. And you could make that work. Or you could decide, no, we actually don't want to do that. We'll avoid anything that has that kind of feel because we want both genders to feel more comfortable in it. Age groups, another one. Is this space going to be for the keenest readers, or are you trying to tempt the reluctant readers to come in? And the keen readers actually find reading at home. This space isn't important to them at all. So, you know, you've got some big choices about who and why. And those should drive the design before you get into any of the discussion about what actually the design is going to be. Whoa, that is really interesting. Again, you need different lighting for different purposes. But the main thing that I would say, this is just from a design point of view, is that traditionally libraries have been, if we're looking at book spaces, they've often been quite dark. And if we're doing public libraries, we always say a public library now is not a quiet place of study, it's a noisy social space. The average length of visit to a library in Britain is only about 5 minutes. So we want it to be more like a store. And we go for bright lighting at the front, which, you can really see everything. It jumps out at you. That's great. If you want, somewhere that people are going to relax and be much more quiet in, then you would tone the lighting down. Again, if you've got a classroom which is very boring, if you just get one table lamp or desk lamp or one floor lamp, you could illuminate one of your nooks and make that feel very different and a little bit more friendly, a little bit more homely by using lighting. So there's some wonderful things you can do with lighting, and a lot of them are really expensive. But I would say look at, again, do you want something which is very restful, or do you want something which is very dramatic? And there are very different ways to go with that. But I would say the main thing in the job that I do is persuading people to put more light in, because they tend to think that libraries are going to be dark and quiet, and they are not ever. They are now buzzy, noisy, social spaces, and they have to have the lighting that goes along with that. You don't want flickering lighting, you don't want really harsh strip lighting. I'd look at, what you can do. Sometimes you can do nice things, again, just looking at from your situation, the tiny little LED lights on a string. You could make a string design on the wall so that in one of your nooks, there's a really different feel because the lighting is being done in that way instead of with a big overhead light. And then the next door one, maybe you have a table lamp or a desk lamp, and you can make one look quite kind of sci-fi futuristic and make the other one look more like a sort of old-fashioned comfy reading corner. So there's very different ways that you can go. If you can't, if you haven't got any money at all, look what you can gather up secondhand. Look, can you do anything with torches? You call them flashlights. There's a whole lot of different things you can do with lighting. It's a lot of fun.